Make our future look like.
Until the last 2 months of precipitation, this was a much more relevant talk. Just because, as Jack showed, we're going to have the blue line go up above the red line this year. The long-term prognosis is not that great, especially with the catastrophe of Western politics. So we've seen some low water in the last few years, but you ain't seen nothing. I just want to show you some really low water. I'll give you something to cry about. So this is that's Horn Creek right there. Oh, Jesus. What happened? Excuse me. Why is my finger not there? So this is the average flow over the last, or the pre-dam recorded flows. And you notice that December, second half of December, all of January before the dam was right around 5,000 CFS on the average. So a lot of people before our generation saw some pretty darn low flows, especially if they went in the winter. The record low at Phantom, 700 CFS, December 28th. I think I had to take in a cabin rather than go around Horn Creek that day. Late. So going back before the gauges, let's look at Stanton. This is down below the little Colorado somewhere. And it's pretty much all gravel. There's a little bit of water flowing through it. Stop that. And this is Hants in the Stanton trip. Pretty rocky out there. Like way rocky. There's the old Hamburger Rock to the left run and the land of the giants out there. So they had some pretty low waters. It's no wonder they had so much trouble. Where's that one? Crystal. That's the pre-1966 Crystal. That's Slate Creek coming in there. It was really just a little bit of a ripple, and even so, it's pretty low and rocky in that shot. There's Granite Park in 1890. What's that? What the heck is that? It looks like the island wasn't really what it is now, but the rapids, the river should be flowing over there and through what's now the island. I'm not sure. It's a pretty interesting shot. Low water. Flavel, we don't have any pictures, but we've got a great description of Hants. We came to a very bad rapid. It was one mass of boulders and decided to run the rapid and pushed up. We took the east entrance, which was only a small portion of the river, left run. We had to make exact points to get through, which we failed to do. And in a flash of an eye, an oar was broke, the roll-off tore out, the pamphon piled up on the boulders. We were not yet in the main park. We took off our shoes and pants. That's what I usually do. And with the big end of a broken oar, I pried her off. 20 feet more, we came up again. Again, we pried her loose. This time we whirled out the main rapid. I took the head oars, the only ones left. She got across the current, another roll-off busted. The oar went overboard, leaving no roll-offs on one side of the boat. There was only one narrow channel, crooked at that, where I thought it possible. And we were hurled far from it. We went down sideways, midway, every way. And that's the only photo we have from the trip. Galloway in 1897, that's just a great description. A short distance below, a louder noise is heard than usual. We make a portage, we line our boats. I'm holding the line of Will's boat, and as she goes through a swift wave, the rope winds around my hand, my feet slip, and I'm jerked into the rapid. I halloo Will, the catcher, with all his might. I've seen released to climb out. Are you wet? Said Will. Not much, said I. My ears are not full. A short distance below, a roaring noise is heard that makes the whole earth tremble. This is a roaring noise somewhat resembles that of some gigantic machinery running at full blast. There's also a rattling noise heard as if some part of the machinery was detached or misplaced. I don't know where they are, but it's noisy. Russell and Monmouth, 1906, again in December. Odds are it's pretty low water. Somewhere around Hants, I think. In trying to run the next rapid, Monmouth struck a rock near the shore in such a manner that though the water poured over, she stuck fast, the whole side almost being torn out. Having got through safely, I was able to return along the shore by throwing a rope to Monmouth. We were able to pull ashore most of the cargo, but darkness found us unable to budge the boat, and we were compelled to give her up. During the night, the river raised by nearly a foot. In the morning, the boat was gone.
Oh,
So now they're down to one boat, which they actually lost at Hermit, but then they found it at Boucher. But this is the only shot we have of that trip, and that's Pike Creek. And it looks pretty rocky, but it's really hard to get a good idea of what the water is doing. A lot of rocks up here in the river bed. Galloway Stone and Dubendorf, looking at Hants here. Looking at the left run, that thing's pretty far out of water. I don't know how many of you know that rock well, back when we used to do the left run. The flood a few years back filled the river with gravel out of here. Now we're starting to get some water around it again. But that looks pretty low. And there's our old Powhorn Creek again. That's the right horn out there in the distance. Left horn's probably over here somewhere. Pretty low. And this is Lava Falls. And it's a very different Lava Falls than we have now. There's a big rock out here in the middle, somewhere around where the ledge may be. Bob Webb says the rapid changed pretty dramatically in 1939. But we're going to see some more shots of it in the olden days at low water. That's looking up Horn Creek on the cold trip. And there's the right horn sticking out there. Between the horns, probably going to be pretty bony on this day.
mhm.
A lot of these were portage at these flows. That's a cool shot. That's upset.
Mm.
The hole is out. The rock that makes the hole is out. But oddly enough, they often didn't make it through these rapids very well. It looks like you actually greased the run in this shot. And there's Lava Falls. And the ledge area is quite a few rocks in it. You notice how far these big ones over to the right, and we'll see it later in the show of what it looks like now at these low flows. But the rapid is over pretty soon. Another view of Lava Falls on the cold trip, January. That's some darn low water. Again, this looks nothing like what we have now at Lava Falls. But there is one giant rock up in the area, probably where the ledge is there. And a drawback, I think, a little better perspective on the rapid. But the left run's looking pretty nasty. Big rock out here, a little something over here. Somebody's sticking their head up right there. Some obstructions right down in the main run itself. Pretty cool shot. And there is, looking at it from down by the old waterfall. Rock. Anybody know that rock right there? clue is it's hard to see that promontory right there. This is Spencer King. This is the old lava cliff raft, which looks fairly negotiable at this level, but man, when that thing's pouring over, you got a heck of a rapid. We don't have very many really good shots in that rapid though. Russell Clement Hadley in the winter of 1914. This is a little jumble of clips that they had put together. They actually do survive. There's the Ross Wheeler, by golly.
Oh my gosh.
And this is the Titanic 2. Down around Saddle, pretty low water. It's a problem we don't have so much. Low water that froze.
Oh,
And
oh,
another sunken boat.
oh.
I'm not sure which one that is. There's the Ross Wheeler running rapids. And another sunken boat. They sank a lot of boats. 4 out of 5. Pathé Bray, it wasn't that low, but that's supposed to be 8,000-ish. But again, this problem with the ice in the water makes boating tough.
Made your drinks better.
Yeah, kept your beer cold. All right, here's that shot again of the Hatch Swain trip. They launched on about 2000 and never really got much more. Great shot of Horn Creek. It's be a bad thing to run it. And they're lining their way down. Got another boat coming in from over there. There's that little waterfall about a mile above Havasu that we like to float our people in under. It'd be a bad day to do that. Lava Falls. I love this shot. There really is no water out there anywhere. And, it's hard to tell really where we are. Dave Kaczynski sent me this and said, I think it's camps, but we are actually able to identify all of these rocks are still in place. It really is Lava Falls. And good Lord. I don't see them. And then this. That is the real Doris Rapid. We did a whole show on that 2 years back. But that little hole almost flipped. That was Swain and Hatch right there. And that's the one that got Doris Neville's in 1940. And it's below Doris Camp. The rapid above Doris Camp did not exist at that time. Norm Neville's loved to start fires. They had really low water on the 1940 trip. It had Barry Goldwater with them, and they took turns torching stuff. This is looking back upstream of Golden Narrows on fire. And there's their flows. And by the time they got to Deer Creek, it was a really hard one. This is where they were down around Deer Creek, well under 2,500. And that's when Doris goes overboard. And I'll show you that again. There we go. Let me back up if I can. That one. That is looking upstream from the rapid below Doris. Right? There's the rock you put the Gruber under in that really cool spot at Doris Camp. And this is, you're looking at a pretty good drop coming into that. It's a boulder bar and, with a giant hole in it. Which I got the pleasure of seeing Bob Whitney do that exact run. Assholes and eyeballs and feet in the air. It's cool. So post-Cambrian, we have a pretty even flow throughout the year. The lowest flow after the dam, 850 CFS in 1963. And your lowest was Christmas on the average in the last 60 years. But about 13,000, 14,000 through most of the year on the average. Well, these are some wonderful shots by Loey's dad. And Loey's dad and their brother Buzz and Doc Marston and a fellow named Matt Miller. Went down the river on 920 to 1020 CFS. This is Badger Creek. Tricky run for a motorboat. They took sport yachts. And this is when the sport yacht comes into its own as a craft for white water. There's 10-mile rock.
Wow. What?
What? It's really big. There's hands. They're pretty rocky. And again, there's that old left run rock that that's used to go around. It's pretty nasty out there. We'll get some better shots of it here as we go along. There's Buzz working his way down through. He's about 19 years old in this. A lot of rocks out there. Lower hand. You ever wonder why there's a really big wave in the Horn Creek? There's a ledge in the middle of the rapid that you don't often see. But this is solid boulders.
Mm.
This is one. Whoops. Seems pretty exciting. Yeah, you can see the. I think that's the right horn up there in the middle. The left horn is over here somewhere in the rock.
Mm.
And this is where you end up. Granite. Some big rocks in granite that you don't see very often. Why do you keep doing that to me? Sorry about that. Gotta get in the clicker. I'm just sensitive. Grant. Anybody know that one? In 1977, a bunch of us saw this, and we thought we were in Ruby because it was 1977 and none of us knew where we were. This is, then we called it Little Ruby or Wannabe Ruby or 104. Kim Crumbo finally found an old map that named the side king Emerald. But this is that one above Ruby. And that thing was horrendous. That is just a big eager hole. You had to get right through there. That's Ruby. Somewhere in Ruby, top of Ruby. I wish you had a shot looking downstream at the minefield that is lower Ruby, but we don't have that shot. Looking upstream at Dubendorf, there's the Table Rock Complex. It's not just one rock, it's a lot of rocks. It's just a big gnarly wave in the left run. This is the alligator field. This is Blacktail. Just a nice shot. Sport yakking in the rain. Don't do that. Yeah, here we go again. I love these shots. We're going to see them a few more times. Need to memorize. Lava falls. Now it's a somewhat different rapid. That's the left right there, and then the rapid's over. The black rock at the bottom is in dead water. We're going to get some better shots. There we are looking across. These two rocks form the V wave at normal flows. They get big, huge crashing V. This is probably the one we call the chunk over on the left. Here's the ledge. And there's, for those of you who studied the ledge a lot, there's sort of a little break in it and then a bit of a crunchy hole a little to the right of it. And for lack of a better word, I'll use the Canex term for that, the teacup, which is sort of an entry they're using on higher floors. And in between the two is what we used to call the slot run at Grand Canyon Dories, and you go and get sucked over here and go right down there. But those rocks were not showing. Just looking back upstream. And so there's the ledge. There's the slot in between the ledge and the teacup place. Here are the two rocks that form the V wave in normal water. Boom, boom. There's that god awful thing on the far right that it's really hard to get into, but people do it. Horrible. There's Doc Larson coming Portage. And there's Granite Park again. Back when there were several willow trees. I remember a few more than the big one, and the big one is now gone as well. This is what pre-dam vegetation looked like along the river. The woodland. The canyons are coming in. Woo-hoo. That's the dark underbelly of Pumpkin Springs.
Mm.
Buzz having a nice arsenic soak. That's what happened to him. There's another mystery one for you. We'll pour over on the upper right there. Big one right there. Pretty much right down the tongue. That's nice canyon rapid before it was inundated with mud and changed shape. Now it blasts you into the left wall. Those are some pretty fun shots. Thanks, Bill. This, I think, is the pull-in to Scout 232 on the right. We couldn't really get there very well. Beautiful through the rock. So we talked about unregulated fluctuations. Paul did. It was horrible. There were no rules. 3,000 to 30,000 sometimes in a day. No ramping rates, no warning, and it made for some pretty hilarious parking.
Oh no.
That's the trip leader sitting in his boat. That's me at Lower Garnet. Henry Wiles. How's a bad boy? Another shot of that same park jump. There was no way out of that one. We just had to wait it out. John Stoner trying to push his boat off. And you know, you thought you knew what the water was going to do, but they would fool you over and over and over again. This ran aground at about 9 o'clock on Labor Day, 1976. This is mid-afternoon. By late afternoon, no part of that boat was touching the water. That's the trip leader, me again. Scott Stavely. We ended up taking one of the tubes off and building a bridge to camp, where we camped there. Beautiful place. MMA Rapid, their first year of existence. John Blaustein had some wonderful park job photos that he contributed. Oh yeah? Mile 19. So you were there. You have to wait a while?
No, we actually got everybody else to pick it up. We
Emptied it, carried it out of it. That's Martin looking for the gin. Celebrate the morning park job.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, Is that Rambo?
It looks like
I think so.
It sure looks like it. He's in a lot of these shots. He's rowing the Malibu. But the first prize of the shots for the Psycho Flows goes to a Fellaini trip. Bruce Winter sent me these. This is day 2, and we're at Soap Creek now.
Oh. Oh,
The whitewater boats, they no longer exist, but they were probably the heaviest S rig ever built. It's just all iron. And he told me the story. He said he had 50 college kids. They took out at Lake Mead, got to the put in by 6 p.m. and all the kids had been there all day. Henry drove down to the Paria ramp when they finally launched at 10 p.m. and had a pull in there. And Robin Fellaini fell asleep and they beached him 100 feet from the river. Got him off at 5 that afternoon, went down to Soap Creek and did this.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they get first prize. The Rainbow Bridge fiasco, in 1973, the Sierra Club, Ken Slide and others sued to protect Rainbow Bridge from inundation. Judge Ritter upheld that law and they started dumping water. We're close to 30,000 all month in April. And then later that summer, the decision was reversed. The gates were closed and we ended up in September with 8, 5, 4, 5, 3. Again, some spectacular parking. And I wish I'd had my iPhone then, I forgot it. But I do have a lot of painful memories. That's my first year crewing for Canyoneers. Oh, lordy, lordy. Adventures. And then there's what I call the Bureau running blind, 1977 through 1983. This apparently was how they forecast the season. So what you do is you let out water willy-nilly throughout the winter, even though it's not a big water year, and then, suddenly realize in early spring that you've let out way too much and close the gate. And they actually did that backward in 1983. They held water back in the biggest snow year ever until May, and then blew out the spillway. It's 1977. We're dumping close to 20,000 in January, into February. In March, we still have 20 to 10. And then, oh my God. And they just shut it
Whoa.
down at 1,000,
What?
2,000. Bunch of boats got piled up at the top of Hants and they grudgingly let out 10 to 15,000 per day, flushed them out, and then went back to nothing. And this was a really fun spring. I got to see this one. Look at May. Oh my God. 869 daily average. And well into June before the commercial season really began. But a few outfitters said, oh, hell, we'll run it anyhow. One Short wrote a poem that a lot of you probably heard, seldom seen in this macho crew down there. He combined a 8-day motor trip and a 12-day road trip into a 10-day hybrid. And this is that trip. Kim and Mark, the Crumbo 2, God bless their souls. There's Kim and his brother Mark. A couple of Bobs, there's Bob Whitney. The other Bob is out of the picture. Stu Reeder and a kid named Coke. This is Patrick on that trip. Redwall Cavern. You could see 50,000 at this level. Unkar. Why on earth are they on the right at Unkar? This is a question that troubles me because there actually was a run on the left that you'll see later. But there they are. Kim liked the shallow run, so. Hants. They spent quite a while at Hants. I think a day or two squirting through. And Hants again looking back upstream. 8 days gone and the girls get prettier, the beer tastes better and the men get wittier. It's a fun poem. But they ended up hiking out, Ken Slide and Bob Short hiked out and they got a gangly, inexperienced boatman from Canyoneers to hike in and take that boat. That was me. And oh God, it was exciting. About 1,000 CFS. And almost no pictures to show for it. These were all Bob's pictures that he had done. But Bob Whitney had this one in Lava Falls. And here we are again with the ledge, the slot run in between the ledge and the teacup part, the 2 rocks that form the V wave, and it's over. And when we were, oh, there's Ken Slide pointing. I never got to set that out. Stu with the engineer's hat and the kid named Cook. But when we got down to Lava, Crumbo was over scouting the left, and Bob Whitney and I, we're going to run the right. It's much more fun. And figured out the run with 3 waterfalls. And then when we went back, all the passengers were scurrying about, screaming, saying, oh my God, did you hear it? And my boat had exploded. And it was a brand new salmon raft, the bad blue, the whole front end had blown out, both chambers. So we ended up rolling it up over the fort tube. The fort tubes made a little round boat, which had a really great run to the right side. And that's my boat. So these psycho spring flows, Rudy Petchek had the wonderful opportunity to run, I think 3 of them. Baco was on a lot of these. Regan is in a lot. Here's batches that we could study in no water. That rapid changed a bit in the 90s, and the actual run shifted a bit to the left. So looking down the rapid, crazy. 10-mile rock again, and its friends, the other 10-mile rocks, and the 9.9-mile rock in the foreground. When we went by that in June of '83, there's that much showing at about 70,000, and then it went under shortly after that. Where are we? House rock. This is the giant hole on the lower left of House Rock. This is the big wave that knocks a fair number of boats over now and then. House Rock Rapid, which apparently appeared first in the 1960s. Didn't used to be there. Oh, this one's cool. This is 25 miles. And that rock was a major problem for most flows up into the mid-1980s. There was a gigantic hole, as you can imagine, in the middle of 25 mile, and you either had to sneak over here where this boat's going, or there was kind of an exciting run between the hole and the over. That kind of like, but that rock disappeared in the same flood that created Georgie's upstream. Something shifted and that hole no longer exists. But there's the rock that made the hole. Where are we? It's a good one. They Portage.
Logan.
Ah, you got it.
I was there
Oh, you were there.
on that
Of
trip.
course.
I remember.
This is the rock they call the dome of safety. Quadrant. Another view of it. Huh? Why do you do that to me? So here's the left run in Oakar. Why was Crumbo over there in those rocks? I don't understand that. It's the Unkar Shoals down below Unkar. Not a lot of clean passages through that. coming into Hants.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, you can find your way in there. The left entry is there. Here's the duck pond, the two rocks at the foot of the duck pond, and then work your way. Oh, forget it. There's no way through, but there is. They made it through. But this picture makes me wonder how many of these rocks came from Red Canyon and how many came from that slope on the far side. It kind of looks like most of that mess on the right might have been part of that rock slide to me. I don't know. I wasn't there when it happened. Another shot from high on the right. That's that South Hole on the entry of Hants that has killed more people than any other single tiny spot. That one drowns people. Duck Pond rocks, the infamous whale rock, land of the giants out here, bottom hole, and the other bottom hole. And if you miss this one, you sometimes go to that one. Looking up. Why? This is Mineral Canyon down below Hants there. I know a guy who hit that rock not that long ago. Yeah, right there. Put a big hole in this road. Sucked all of it. It really doesn't look like much of a rapid at this level. It's kind of hard to tell where that left hole is. It might be one of these two rocks in the foreground. Not much of a rapid at that level. Grapevine, on the other hand, is a big pile of rocks. In the 1970s and 80s, when we had high water, this was a really fun wave. I haven't seen it in decades. Same entry as we do now. What do you think? Should we split the horns today? Rudy said, it's one of the rare times when you could just roll up to Horn Creek, set your oars down, stand up, get out your camera, focus it, take a picture, and sit down again, and row to shore. So where he was, there was no current at all. You can see the actual drop over there on the right. Terrified. That's the entry. It's looking down on it. Rudy went some cool places for this camera. Right horn, left horn's over in this jungle. Giant rock that I have not much experience with. That trip we did with Slight, and it was waterfalls. There's that ledge we saw in the Belknap photo, and we'll see again. You can see why you get thrown pretty hard to the right. That's looking up. Who's that? The yellow boat. Is that Rudy?
It's this little 10-foot right?
But Rudy took the picture. Maybe he gave the camera to somebody else. But there's the right and left horns from below. And that also gives you a good concept of why there's been, I think, now 4 broken necks on people that run between the horns when it's a little too low. There's some bad stuff right there. There's the ledge in Horn Creek. Isn't that crazy? It's right in the middle of the river. And again, ledge in the foreground, giant rocks everywhere. Horn Creek. The ghost run just get shot all the way to the right, go down the right wall. It's the only places anyone. Where are we now? That's not where we usually look at it from. No. Granite Falls. From the right. There's Bago, taking a look at it. It's pretty cool. I have seen it where you pull in, you can just see the little tip of the boat up there into that little canyon, and you can go quite a ways down the right side. And granite again, this is that big hole that's sort of out there on the left edge of the wave train that we nearly always go off to this side of it. There's a reason that some of those tail waves are a little complex. That's the big thing. That's Hermit. The entry, you can see where the fifth wave is. And then again, it gets complicated down there around the 10th wave. The big sharp part of the 10th wave only appeared in the 90s, though, for reasons unknown. Maybe a meteor. Entry of Hermit. I love these pictures. Where are we? Crystal. So we're below Slate Creek. This is the main part of the rapid until 1983. That big black rock with the blue kayak is what made the hole in Crystal. And it's still out there. It makes a weird little snurgly wave between the top of Crystal and the island. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. This thing made a huge wave, and to get between them was kind of tricky. We called this milk stopping, and pretty cool. This is the top of the island, and you see these big red rocks up until 1983. But if you pinned in the island on a big red rock, it was up at the top of the island, not at the bottom. And I believe I pinned on all of those at one time or another. And this looking down the stream, again, you see the red rocks up at the top of the island. And the bottom of the island doesn't have that huge chunker that we now call Big Red. Once you got past these top rocks, you could usually wash on through. That all changed in 1983. 100-mile rock, Nixon Rock, looking downstream. The left is a little bony. And the run is sneaking through that little slot on the right. And this is looking back up at it, and all of the nonsense that's out there in the rapid or in the river below that rock. Emerald again, 104. And this is a really good shot of the violence of that center drop there. We're on a kayak trip in 74 on low water. We trashed ourselves repeatedly in that thing just for fun. Serpentine. A big pour over there that makes that spectacular waterfall. The Zambezi run. Little thin today, and we usually are in over here. At this level, though, you have to get through that slot. It's the right place. But too many to go back. All right, lava, ledge hole, right there. We're going to keep up the right extension, the slot run, the two rocks to make the D wave. Boom, boom, and the rapid is pretty much over before the black rock. The thing we call it shove is probably that right there. Looking upstream, and again, the same features. A little slot between the ledge proper and the teacup wave on the right, the nasty thing over here. The V-wave rocks that make the V-wave, and it actually is a run over here. from the low left, looking back up at it. Again, lead, rock, hole, depth hole, new wave rock, step rock, left run. No. Oh, we got to go back to that. I'm sorry. But you guys want to see these again anytime. I know you do. Badger. 10 mile rock. 10 mile rock. House rock. 25 minutes. Quad. Okay. Our shoulder. Hands. I love that one. So we hope we don't see these flows again. Well, pretty exciting to see them from the vantage point of the slideshow. Great fun. Orange Creek. Orange Creek. Orange Creek. Oh God, the legend of Orange Creek. Orange Creek. Let's move on. Great. You can see right above those three people, the big rock that makes the hole. It's sort of out the middle of the river. Normal flow. There you go. Okay. Snow on the winds. Hermit. Hermit. Okay, we're gonna get this. I'm gonna throw this clicker out after this show. Emerald, little 4. Serpentine. There's the ledge. You can see that little slot in the middle that you have to go right there. This is all just boulders. And lava. Lava. It's so cool that people like Rudy and Bill Belknap got all these shots, because hopefully we'll never see it again. Pumpkin. Okay, the picture I went back to get didn't even show up that time. Never mind. 231. I think the rock that flipped the hatch boats is this one way up here. This is that thing that pinches you into the little chute between this rock and that rock. And somebody doing a pop-up. The Fang at 232. The rapids pretty much over. Bruce Saline and Vega and Jeff Aronson and Bob Whitman and who else said some of these? Bart Jones, Brian Brown, and Mel Rock again. There's Bruce going into Badger. Low water. These are all in those crazy, capricious, irresponsible flows of the early 70s. This is a good one. These guys have just bounced off the left shore and are now caroming off some green rocks in the middle of the river, trying to get through that little slot. Looking upstream at 23.5 miles. The Indian Rapid there. That thing is what creates that big gnarly lateral that flips boats. Why you want to push over into here and you run that rapid. Probably everybody's seen this big red rock, but it's usually just underwater. Coming into Cave Spring. You ever hit a rock on the left side of upset? That's because there's a big rock and another one 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 on the left side of upset. I've hit at least one of those, but I'm not sure which one. They sort of hide out in the bottom of a couple waves on the left side of upset under 8,000 and put holes in dories. And of course, the bottom hole there. Havasu, they had to wiggle their way into it here, and then it was too shallow to get out, so they had to drag them back up to get out of there. This is the rest of Havasu Rapid. You can see why when you're doing that turnaround run in the motorboat to ferry in, why you might have an accident. And apparently some people did.
No.
Back to Lava Falls. This is two shots pieced together. Again, the ledge complex and the slot between the death hole, the V-wave rocks. Amazing. This is the one of the V-wave rocks. And we're still well above what we call the black rock, the cheese grater rock. It's way down out of sight in the cold water. This is a couple shots from Jeff Aronson. These are naked stone hippies running Lava Falls. One boat has perched itself on the ledge itself, and the other guy has perched himself on something further downstream. And this is all at the same time. The impairment was involved. And this was from Brian Brown. This is doing the left run at that level. This guy came down on the far left entry and was squirting between the V-wave rock and the chub rock. Actually a viable run. Dr. Stephen Carruthers dropping a snout rate down the right. He's coming past the teacup rocks. Bruce Cimbala there for a second. You gotta be hitting yourself. This is from Bert Jones, OU boat dropping into lava. I love this shot. That's Tim Cooper sitting there in the foreground and Rudy Petchek dropping in to Lava Falls. The good old days. So there's still more low water to be holed. In 1991, there was this phenomenon called the third day of 5. They would do 11 days of some insane flow regime designed to destroy all the remaining sand. And then for 3 days, it would drop it to 5,000. And the first day it was really low. And the next day, as the sandbars drained and the eddies drained, it was lower. And the third day was really the worst. And they did that all summer long. Really annoying. And the namesake of the rock there, that's Whale Rock. So, Whale did that exact run 2 trips in a row and earned its name.
Oh.
Whale never liked it being called the Whale Rock. He said, call it the rubber magnet, damn it. It's another test flow. This is Christmas Eve. And this is 2 shots of Billy Ellwanger. We're on a fish trip here, going to the left of the table rock. There were 3 different pulls of the motor in this, and I can't remember exactly where they were, but he's about to pull his motor there. I think we had to do one there and then another down here to get through it. So in 1995, the Grand Canyon Protection Act, the Grand Canyon Environmental Impact Statement fixed things by and large for us. We had high and low limits at that point. maximum ramping rate, so they couldn't just go 1 to 30 on us. And they actually began to look upstream at the snowpack, apparently, because they haven't had those months of panic when they overheld or over-released. It's a lot better for boating than it used to be. And we can run that. And as these pictures show, we can get through there with all kinds of consequences, and boatmen adapt. You guys are good. Go up to Cataract sometime if you doubt it and see what they do. You know, from a couple thousand up to 100 and some thousand. They're boat, they run their boats. But is that what we want? And again, back to Jack, we need to be pushing for what we think is best for the canyon. Be vigilant. This drought and climate change, there's a lot of pressure to start disregarding some of those parameters that are in place. And we don't want that to happen. It's really helpful. So we need to pay attention, stand up for the community and its ecosystem, regardless of what the bean counters are saying. But you might also want to get good at your technical skills. I think we're going to see more of it. There's on car again. Why, Kim? Why would you ever go to that job? That's all I got.